Well, hello, my fabulous patrons. So today, on our exclusive weekly tutorial, I am taking you to the streets of Morocco. I have seen this photograph on Unsplash for a long time. Whoops, fix the lighting here. And I've always wanted to do it. I changed the outfit color because I didn't like it, to make it more pop, because the person was kind of blending into the whole scene. And I go over this step by step. I really like this because of the not even just the colors, but the mid-tones, the light tones, the darks. So it gets you to break down the shapes, right? When you're breaking down shapes doing urban sketching, the shapes are the key to really kind of help you with the buildings. So you've got those rectangular shapes, right? And then just filling them in segments, right? So mid-tone here, all one big shape. They are one big shape, but some of them are just slightly nuanced with a little bit darker here, etc., etc. So yes, the colors of Morocco are amazing. You have me speaking about this because of my retreat coming up in 2024. It's the only one I have available left. And I'm super excited. I wanted to go on this last year and we had to postpone it because of the earthquake. I have so many of my friends who have been there. And if you love to paint really kind of amazing, like colorful, streets and buildings and people, this is the place. Anyway, enough about that. The listing is on the Patreon. Just scroll down to find it if you want to see it. We're just going to paint this because I want to really go over that kind of thing. If you're out urban sketching, like break things down into the shape, right? And then just washing in the color. And you really need to use a big brush for the washing and the color part. And go in and use a small brush for the details. And then that's it. That's what you got to do. This looks almost white, but it's a really light pink wash of all this. So, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section and let's get started. All right, so you have the traceable, you have the reference photo. I'm using Arch 100% cotton cold pressed paper block. This is a 7x9 or 7x10, sorry, 7x10 block. Look at that, it's already coming apart. Many different brushes. You want to get a large surface area like this. I would say you could use the 12, but I might actually pump mine up to the 16 here, get this big surface area of this color, even though it's basically one color, but there's a little nuances in this with the little dark tones in here. And this photograph shows a lot of I would say like a pinky burnt sienna, right? Very pinky color tones, which you will see in Morocco. This is a photograph of Morocco and Marrakesh. And this person, I can't tell if it's a woman or a man. I don't know who it is because I have the thing on. I imagine it's maybe a woman because she has to be completely covered. But the men have some of these long jackets on too. Anyway, I think, that she's carrying a turquoise, plastic bag or something, or bag. And I'm going to change her outfit to be turquoise. So it really pops against this, because orange and blue really, the complementary colors, and they're going to pop. So they're this is in the orange family, and this will be in the blue family. See how you can your eye goes right to that turquoise bag? Well, the bag isn't really great. I want the eye to go to the person. So I'm going to make the person's outfit turquoise. I'm going to change it up. This is not a photograph I took. And even if I did take this photograph, I'd still change it because why not? So you can just change it for artistic liberty, and nobody's going to know who's the the historian that's going to come after you. And a lot of people do this, because it's like, oh, I like these colors, all these wonderful colors, but I'm changing it the person. This is really going to be pale because it's sunlight, almost white. You can almost leave it white, but I'm going to put a light tinge of this color. And then we've got some blue. So, and another thing, if you're feeling really intimidated to paint, just draw it all in ink and then just wash it in, right? If you're new to this game and you're intimidated, I'm very excited about going to Morocco because of the colors that you see. There's a couple of towns we're going to that are one town is on the coast. It looks like Greece in a way because it's whitewashed buildings, but all the trim is bright blue, and then they have some yellows and greens. It's insane. So I just can't wait. So if you're a person like me that wants to paint really cool and exotic things, you should come on this trip. There's still a lot of spots left, so grab it if you want to come. It's my last one of 2024 too. So my last bang will be in Morocco. Last year it was supposed to be in September, and then they had that earthquake, which was not even near where we're going to be. but it wasn't, nobody knew it was too early on. So we had to postpone it. So I'm going to erase the lines you kind of see here a little bit because I don't want to see super dark, harsh lines. Now, if we were actually in Morocco, if you were with me, I would be showing you how I would draw this. I'm going to do that for Patreons coming up again. I'm going to do another, I'm sorry, Patreons. The top tier patrons, I do that once in a while. I'm going to do another one where we do an urban sketching from start to finish, so you get an idea. That'll be the live stream coming up this month in October. So if you're not on the top tier and you want to switch, you might want to do that for the urban sketching kind of scenario. And I break it down how I do it. I don't like to do really complicated urban sketching because it's even difficult for me. It's a lot of perspective and I hate perspective. So we always do the details at the end. We're going to do the big washes in the beginning. When you're going for a picture like this, big washes, you do the big color, you know, and you always start from light to dark, right? You see the light here. There's a lot of, most of the painting will be in the midtones. And there's a lot of midtones happening, a lot. You see them? Squint your eye. They all kind of blend together. You see this? It's one big kind of shape. It's here, it's over here, here. And then you have some darker tones here. And the dark, super dark tones are like the light. And see how it's bouncing off the glass here? So the glass looks like it's the same color, but it's probably not really the glass. I don't know. I'm not really there. I'm just going by the photograph. But you do the wash in with the light color, and then we're going to go and do all the midtones, right? Some of it had a little more nuance. Some of it's a little bit darker in this midtone area, a little bit more. And then the person is going to just pop because I'm going to make it turquoise. And yeah, that's how you tackle something like this. It's the light, the midtones, but you're squinting, and you can squint your eye, and you see this one big continuous shape. And that's what it is. We're going to do a value study one of these days too. I think I already have one on here. I'm not sure. So you can start off by painting the sky, which I like to do first sometimes. So I'm just going to use some ultramarine blue. I actually have some yellow on my palette. I'm going to just clean this off with my brush like a mop and remove it. Much better. Okay. It's a tiny little area. So you don't need much paint, and it's kind of like a solid wash. Maybe it's a little more on the cerulean kind of blue. I don't have that. Maybe I'll add some peacock blue. Let's see if I can find my peacock blue. Let's see if we can change this blue up a little bit. So yeah, see, that's a little bit different. It's up to you what you want to do. Do a different blue if you feel like it. I'm just going to wash in. Even with the 16, you can be careful. It has a great tip. You're just going to fill in all the areas. Go right over this. I don't want to go over the gray part. I could go over this, but I don't really want to because I want that beautiful pink color. And if I put the blue over it, what will happen? Well, it won't be pretty pink. It'll end up being like a purple, muted brown purple. So I am going to go around that. If it's more difficult for you to do that, put some masking fluid in there. But get used to using a big brush. See how I'm just delicately sticking this in? Really try and push yourself to use a big brush like this. It has a great tip. You can go around. You just take your time, but it holds all that paint. So you're not taking a little ditzy brush and you're going in and around, and you know what I'm telling you. I scream at people on my retreats and my workshops with a little tiny brush. You know that I do that. Because look how much faster that was. If you were taking this, it's like, and it comes streaky, very streaky. We don't want that. We don't want that at all. So I'll remove the blue. We're done with blue. Blue's gone. Blue's out of sight. So I want to tackle this color. I think it's more of a pink, right? Than really of a burnt sienna. But I can take the burnt sienna. I'm going to grab a lot of this actually. And make it pink. I'll add some, you can add some quinacridone magenta. I have bright rose. Let's see how the rose looks. And for me, it's always an experiment. You want to play with it and then see what colors mix. So now it's pinky, still kind of more like a rose color. And if you grab some scrap, of course I mentioned this when I'm looking for some scrap. Here we go. I didn't like this paper. And you'll see, so you want to test it on your scrap. Well, that's a little too pink. And you think, well, what would I need? And it's not actually too bad. It's very pinky though, right? Corally pink. Maybe add a little yellow, so it's less pinky pink, more in the coral area. What we got here, see? Just a touch of yellow, change that up. And it's still much darker than that. It feels like it matches the left side. See how I put the paper next to this and you're kind of matching it? This side maybe a little more nuance, a little more pink. But I don't mind it, so it's more of an orangey color. And I kind of like it. And you can play around with that. So now that we have a color that we like, I'm going to dip my brush in the water. And it's going to be really light. See, dip it. And then just that's that light area here. Dip it again. Take off some paint. Maybe we can put in this really light wash. Oh, it's coming a little bit darker than I wanted to. I want it really super light. So maybe I'll clean off my brush and still have a little bit of the pigment on there. Now at this point, you could go over your little lamppost. So the photograph shows almost white. I'm going to make it a little bit more of a pigment. Coming down. Go right over everything except the person's outfit. And that light, we can actually go over the whole entire thing with this color. I'm going to keep this super light. So we're going to get the other part really dark. I'm adding more water. So now I've got that whole area in here. You can actually go in here, do all of this except the person. This is why the bigger brush comes in handy. Right? Still using this color. Going in and completing this whole segment. Gonna mush this paint over a little bit. We'll get our first wash in of light tone. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of the color and a little bit of water. I'm gonna go over everything except the person, remember? I'm still going around this with my 16 brush. I can do it. If I get a little bit over the clothes, it's no big deal. Grabbing a little more of the pigment and a lot of this. See? Fill it all in. Getting a little cauliflower bloom over here. Gonna kind of mush that. Well, I can while it's still wet. All right, now I'm gonna pick up some more of the pigment. Just kind of fill in this area. I didn't put a tape mark on this. Doesn't really matter to me if I fill it all in or not. So you see how it's all washed in that one color? It's better to have a big brush. And what's great about this is I could go in around things with the tiny tip and then use the big belly of the brush to get the rest of it. Right? I did want this area to be lighter, which means I'm going to have to make the area around it much darker. I'm going to lift some of it. Lifting is cleaning up your brush. Grabbing a little bit of that. Going to lift. It will dry later though. There. Still very wet. Okay, got a little cauliflower kind of happening here. I'm going to try and see if I can manipulate it a little bit. I'm going to try and let it dry naturally and hope for the hills that it doesn't screw up. See how I got a little pink on the blue and it's already changed the color. If that happens to you, I'm cleaning off my brush, or I'll just even grab a smaller brush, clean it off. Let's see if you can lift it. You can lift it a little bit. Just kind of go fast because the blue's dry. Now I've cleaned it up. Looks great. I'm not going to mind some of these little hard edges if they happen. as I'm going to go over with the darker color. So there you go. There's the first wash. And then we're going to do that big shape of the medium wash, right? And then go back in and add another slight more darker color wash. And then go and do all the finer details. The person, these like basket, I don't know if they're baskets. They're like more like, they look like crates going up in here. Almost like window box crates. It's kind of weird. I wonder if there's some kind of weird pulley system. I have no clue. I've never been there and I can't wait to go. So we'll let this dry and come back. All right, so she's dry and we're going to do some more nuances with these colors. So this is lighter than this, but this is lighter than this, right? So we have to do another wash on this like one span here. You can see, but it kind of matches this one. Let's see how this is really light and this is now getting a little bit darker, and then we're going to get darker and darker still. So I'm going to loosen up this paint again. You could probably try and use the same color you used before. I don't want to get too dark. It looks a little pinker, so I'm going to add just a little bit more pink with the rose. And again, test it. There's some scrap. You want it darker, but not too much darker. So there we go. Okay, and we're going to paint it on this lovely little area here. This one. I'm going to get some more water. So we're going back over this little area. So I'm looking a little too dark. I'm going to clean off my brush again and just go back over this. We just want it a little bit darker than the color we see on here. I know this is a whole, it's just a step by step. Here we go. This little shape. It's a pretty simple shape. It's kind of like a weird rectangle. And it goes up here too. Now it's a lot lighter in the photograph. I might have chosen to make this almost white and then go do this, but now we're just going to take the same scenario and just make it a little bit darker for each level. Go down here, right? And of course we have to wait for this to dry before we start playing around. If you see any other color tones that match it, you can kind of play with the lovely little lamppost now. I'm still using the 16, and I'll go in and I'll put the pink in, and if you can put it on all of it because you're going to go back over it with the lovely dark color, and same thing with the little one down here. See that? Voila. Go here. You can, well, actually that will match this color. So we'll wait for this color to dry and we'll do another wash with all this color. See how we're building? Slowly building. You can take this color right now that we have here. There's a little bit of grays happening in here, so I might kind of play with pulling the color. And you see how I'm doing a dry brush? Watch my strokes kind of going like this. I only have a teeny bit of paint on this brush. Making it a little bit darker. And there's some grays happening in here, so I gotta get a little bit of gray. I'll grab some ultramarine blue, some burnt sienna, ultramarine blue. See a little bit of that? Get this grayer. I'll keep adding more blue. It was looking too brown. Okay, now that's on my brush. I'll wipe it off a little bit. We can start to play with adding a little bit of this gray. See? It's blending, it's bleeding. All that good stuff. Just adding a little bit, going across. It's looking a little too brown. I want it more blue, so I'll clean up my brush. I'll get a little bit more blue. Okay. Cleaning up my brush again and just kind of pushing the paint out. I'm going to give it a minute to like kind of dry and wait till it dries before I go back in and add another layer of this. But I'm starting to get this whole nuance happening in the street. You see, I'm adding in some grays, bluish grays. You can even grab some of that pinky color tones and go across, because it's not like one solid color. It has a little nuance to it. All right, I will let that dry, and we'll come back and start doing our medium tones. All right, let's go for it. You see that big medium tone kind of situation happening? Now I'm going to go grab this big old brush that I have. Getting into my paint now. Hoo hoo hoo. Let's not get scared. It starts to go, the shape starts to come here. It goes up here, right? A little bit here, sticking out, and then goes down. I'm going right over those baskets too, by the way, whatever those things are. Coming down here. Just going right over here. This is our big medium shape. And there's a nice little shadow kind of happening. You can kind of use that right here. I didn't draw that in, but you can look at the photograph and see where that is. Now again, this one's lighter, so don't hit that. But you can hit this one next to that one. One huge big shape happening here. See that? And then, of course, this little line connects to here. This one's darker brown. Look at that. And now we're on this side. Oh yes. So it's one big nuance of shape happening. I feel like this is like a weird color here. Okay. Getting more paint. Another trick is to have a lot of paint. It's a big shape. I could actually use a bigger brush for this. Going back over this big old shape. And now we have some nuance, but get some darker colors again happening. But right now we're just going to fill in these big medium shapes. That's the key. Let your eye see the medium shape color. I'm sorry, the mid-tone medium shape. Woohoo, cuckoo lane. I'm in the cuckoo lane. And this is where it can get a little tricky if people got playing and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding color. Now I know that this color is also part of the medium shape. I'm going to go in here. Filling this in. It has a little more red to it, so we will be going over this with some other color tones. See that one big medium tone shape? I'm sorry, I keep saying medium, mid-tone. I don't know what's wrong with me. Mid-tone. And it kind of goes up here a little bit. You see, you can see kind of a shadow. So I'm just going to take my brush, go down here a little bit, make some little lines. And then here, and a little line here. You see that? So you get that mid-tone. And we will get even darker still back here, right? But you see how it's all coming together. Now I just noticed this is part of the street as I'm looking. I can get a little bit darker again, coming back here in the shape. Fill in this little kind of area. We will be adding in some other tones to this. We could take some dry brushing, just kind of dry brush some of that pinky kind of color tone, mid-tone. We'll be adding in some more grays and stuff too, but I want to just get a little bit darker. There's grays happening up in here. Don't get so bogged down in it. We really want to just concentrate on light, mid, dark, all that good stuff, right? And I will be having to mix up more paint to get even darker still. If you feel like when it dries it's still not contrast enough, and I really feel like this is really dark and this doesn't feel dark enough, we can go back in again and add more color. So I'll mix up burnt sienna, my lovely bright rose, a touch of the cadmium yellow deep, Maybe some more bright rose. Always check with a nice little card. It's looking a little redder. Maybe add a little more yellow. It is pinky though. Gonna add some more rose. And this is how I test it. See, if we do another wash, it will get a little bit darker. I feel like it's not enough contrast. I don't know. It's very, very light. It should be darker. Now, if we do this when it's wet, it can cause an issue. So we're going to let it dry and go over it one more time. All right, so we're back. It's still a little wet. So going for it, same thing. That's why I use a bigger brush. It's a little brighter, but that's okay. Right? If it's too much, you might want to tone it down a little bit. I'm going to tone mine down just a touch by lifting some of the color, moving it. Remember, it will dry later, and if it's not super, if the color is a little bit off, no big deal. I'm going to go back in here and fill in the shape again. And now I feel like it's much more, it's much deeper than it, than it was the first time. It has more of a contrast like it would in the photograph. See that? Because this is really light, it's supposed to be. You could add some gray tones while it's there. I'm going to grab my ultramarine blue. I'm kind of afraid myself that if I screw this up with the tones, throwing some of the color tones in there, because you can see this kind of like a wash of grayish blue kind of happening here. We'll just take a little bit on our brush. I kind of do this motion of the stroke going up and down here, and adding in that deeper blue-gray. See? Kind of bleed a little bit down here. Will it make a mess? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Just try it out for a little bit. It might cause a cauliflower bloom. I don't know. So then we're going to go take this color again, since we have this. I might add a little bit more. You can change it up a little bit. It could be more orangey on this side, but it has the mid-tone kind of feel to it. So I'll make this a little bit more orangey. Go in here. And fill this all in. That's why the big brush comes in handy. Go big or go home, right? Fill this all in again. Right on top. Come down. And again, then you see that slight difference. This one's actually darker than this one, so I'll wait till I can go in and put this color in. And when it dries, I'll go back in and I'll add a slight darker tone or another wash of the same color. It will make it a little bit darker on top of this little section right here I just painted. But now you really can see the mid-tones, the super lights, and we'll get in there a little bit darker, see? And you're squinting your eye, you see how that blue's kind of happening in here? Sometimes it might repel it. I'm just going to go, like I said, take the brush, kind of wisp down into the color in here. There's that gray, blue-gray happening. And the street. I still have pink. I want to add more blue. Let's take some more ultramarine blue itself. It's like purple almost. And kind of go across. We'll get there. A nice little line kind of going this way. See? Getting those darks in there. I feel like this one is a little more pink red to it. You can do it in sections at this point. I mean, if you want to start adding the blues, just be careful when they're wet. You can kind of blend them. If it's starting to dry, it will turn into a cauliflower. See right there, it did turn into a little cauliflower. Since I'm going to make this one darker, I don't really mind as much, but I really wouldn't blend and bleed unless it's really wet. And you want to play with adding in some of the tones. Like in this section right here. See, I'm taking the mix of the blue and some of the color. Just getting this a little bit darker. And this actually is not as super light, so I might do another little wash. This one definitely is like almost like white. Just the simple nuances and all that. So again, we'll let this dry and we'll come back. You know, it's like this whole process of layering. So you get the mid-tones, the light tones, and the darks. Okay, so now that it's dry, I might go back and grab some more pink tones. Grabbing some pink in here. See, it's more pinky. My brush. So this is the bright rose. And I'll go in here and see if I like that. A little bit more pinky. A little yellow. Burnt sienna. Pink, pink, pink. Water this down just a tad. And this section in here. Maybe actually it's more brown pink. So I could add some burnt umber. Not burnt sienna, burnt umber. Here we go. Then burnt sienna. And let's see what we got. Still kind of bright. I want it more muted with the brown, so I'm going to add some more burnt umber. See how I even have to play with it? I'm going grabbing more burnt umber. Okay, and going in here. And down in here, you can kind of see more of it, again, the shadow of blues happening. We'll do that in a second. Just getting this a little bit darker, kind of under those baskets. And I will get this a little bit darker too. You could kind of do it while it's still damp on this side. Just a little bit darker. It looks so white. Kind of fade it on the end by cleaning off your brush and lifting some of it. So it's darker, but it's not super dark, and you still want to keep it light like this one. This one in this section is much darker. I'm still using this big old brush. Now it's turning to more blue kind of tone, so you don't have to use this big old brush. I'm actually going to switch and move. So you say, how would you make it dark? Would you add more of the pink? Or no, maybe just grab some ultramarine blue. And I'm not kidding. Just water it down, blue itself, and look. Go right over there with the shadow, just with the blue, on top of that lovely pinky color we did. Just a little bit. Boom. Blue. Right? I'm going to water this down again. Just ultramarine blue. Tap it because I don't want this dripping blue on my brush. And you can see here, maybe a little bit thicker, the blue happening, the shadow. You're just going right over that pinky orange we had. See, I'm kind of tapping some color off. A little too much. I want a little bit of a pigment. Slightly going up here. The shadow of the side of the building. Almost a dry brush effect, but a little bit more wet. And going upward. Here. Now you see the nuance of the building. Keep adding a little more blue. Now I'll go down here, take the blue. There's a little blue. Just take the blue itself, a little thicker. I know you can kind of see the ultramarine blue. It's more gray in the picture, but I just like the pop of the blue. And then you can kind of do some dry brushing. Ugh, why is this not working for me today? Going across. If you want to make more gray, so take the blue and the burnt sienna blue, ultramarine blue deep, I'm sorry, burnt sienna. That's a little too brown, add more blue, so it's more blue-gray. Tap it on a paper towel, and you can see that like one section here again. This one looks more blue, so I'm going to add more blue. It's a little bit darker than I wanted to do, but I'm just going to go in here, finish some here, and it kind of comes up in the building a little bit on the edge. It's like a blurred edge. And then here, it's just kind of dry brush happening. See? Just kind of wing your brush out and downward. A little texture of the street. I'm going to lift a little bit of this. It seems a little too meh. There we go. Add the blue. You're going to have to play around with this with the blue. And now the blue kind of comes up on this one. So I'm grabbing the blue tones. It kind of goes up this one a little bit. And down and across. I'm using the 12 Neptune series for this. You see how we got the shadow in there now? And there's also, God, what is with this brush today? Doesn't want to cooperate. A little bit in the one behind here. So there's the person, there's this ending of this building right here. I'm just grabbing a little blue, kind of on the end, and pushing it up a little bit. Right? And again on the street. Just a little bit. You see that? Like a little line kind of happening across. Grab a little more of this red color tone, going in here, adding a little more streaks. So now you can see the differentiation between the two buildings. And you can get a little bit deeper. There's like a brown wooden thing happening. It's still kind of wet in here, but squint your eye. And if you see like more blue kind of tones, which I do, kind of happening here, I'm going to go add that kind of another shadow within a shadow kind of situation. See, all those things matter, and you can just layer it on top of each other. The blue, the blue, the blue. There's more blue kind of happening underneath these baskets. Little kind of streaks. And it's a little bit out here too. Just dry brushing just a touch. It makes a big difference. It's still very dark in the photograph than what I have. You can kind of keep building on that. I don't want to get too dark. It does, you know, mine looks much lighter than this. I don't want to make it super dark. You can choose to keep yours lighter or make it darker, more intense color. Some people like to do more intense. It's up to you. I don't want to get too crazy with that. I'm going to go back and mix some of my colors again. There's a lot of nuances happening in here, so you can kind of go like this a little bit. Not streaks. Put the little lines in here. Add a little blues, ultramarine blue, kind of on this side. Going up, and then I'll clean off my brush, get water on it so I can just kind of blend it so it doesn't look streaky. So I hope that makes sense. See, it looks like it was just kind of blended right in there. Yeah. And again, you can just go back over if it's still not dark enough in your opinion, you know. Some of these I feel like could be a little bit darker. I don't want to keep showing you the same thing over and over again, but I'm showing you how I'd make it a little bit darker. I'm going to grab some of these colors again, mix up. See, you just, it's playing around with the burnt sienna, the yellow, and the pink. Go back and make this section a little bit darker still. And this section should be much darker. Just another swipe in here over the whole thing. Oops. The window. Because it is darker than this one. You see that? Now you get that intensity happening and this person's coming forward. This is a lighter tone, but there's a little square thing happening here with this color. And then we have the baskets. I'm going over them with pink. We're going to be going over those with brown. I feel like it's like a pulley system or something. I don't know what it is. Kind of a strange looking thing. You'll notice a little shadows here. I'll just take that pink color. I'll just go right here for that shadow. There isn't much more up this way. There's the brown baskets happening. And then we're going to go in and we're going to fill in our little person. And I think I'm going to probably do another pass of like some of the colors down here. Just see, I'm just kind of wiggling that in. I might grab a little more yellow tones into my pinky red. Oop, that's a little too much yellow. Grab the water and kind of mush that. That looks a little better. Getting into my person here. But they're going to be turquoisey. So this little section here is just gray. Right? The blue, now that I'm looking at it, my blue is really, really, really light. And it should be more intense. You can go back over and do another wash of the blue, which I will do. So for the blue, I'll go back and use the same color as ultramarine blue. And I'll grab my peacock. And it should be more intense. I didn't realize mine was so light. And I'll just make it more intense. And I'm using the number 10. See how I'm using a tiny brush? Look what happens. You're going to have to move much faster because it's tiny. And it can get streaky. So I'm showing you the difference of how slow it takes to get this little section darker with a tiny brush. I kind of like the bigger one because it lends itself to be looser. But if you want to go back over it and be more precise, you can go back in and grab the smaller brush. So now it makes more sense. But you see, it's kind of looking streaky. That's why I like the big brush, one big shape. I didn't want it to be kind of streaky. That's the difference, you see? But now this building looks better because on the side, because it was looking too light, it's showing up much better. And you can play with using these bright blue colors, kind of playing, see, in here in the street. In the street. I'm gonna go and add this blue tinge. A couple little lines, little gray lines. Texture lines. They're like little gray, mixing up some ultramarine blue and Sienna. Okay, come on. Okay, so I get the grays. So you can see like little darker tones, tip tap, go across. Little ones here. These are like the little details. I'll tap my brush, get a couple of dark ones, oops, happening. Maybe move my finger to kind of smudge it. See? Little nuances on like the edge of the building here. A little dark gray. Can smudge it a little bit with your finger. Then back in here. And then we have a couple of like the baskets and stuff like that. But just little teeny ditsy, they were like little teeny marks that you see on the street. Go like this. All those are little details at the end, right? But you can kind of play with them as you're going along. Dry brush. So this is still a bit wet. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to come back and start doing some details. All right, so this is where we start to do some details. There's that gray little block area. You see the photograph? Cleaning off my brush. I have that gray I mixed up. Just make a nice light gray. I use ultramarine blue and burnt sienna for that. I'm just going to fill this in. I'm using the 10 round Velvet Touch series. So now you grab the small brush, tiny ditzy brushes when you're doing these details of the baskets. I use burnt umber, and I grabbed a little Paynes gray and make it a little bit deeper brown. we can start to put the little baskets in. Again, I'm not going to make them so super details. There's this one color here and a little bit darker on the bottom. So we'll put the first tone in of the basket. This one's almost like pink. So it's up here. The weird basket crates or whatever you want to call them. Put the brown in there. There's kind of like one happening up here that I didn't draw. That same brown is using this like pole across here. Now you can do that after the window. I would do the window first. So I put the light gray window in. It goes down here with the shadow. Let that dry and then do the bar across from it. We have brown, mixing the brown with the gray, burnt umber. See a nice deep brown. And we have these other little things that are happening behind the person. So like this doorway kind of situation. That one's fairly dark. Mine's a little darker than it should be. Up here's a little line. Then it's like a thing that goes across here. This nice deep brown. These are all the little details you put in towards the end. Down here, gets a little gray. I don't know what these things are, but I'm just filling them in. It could be doorways or whatever. And I think this is like a gray thing happening right here. A shutter or something. I'll just make it brown because I can. They're a gray part of the window. So I use ultramarine blue and burnt sienna for the gray. Mixing that up. God, if you could just use a touch of that burnt sienna because it just really makes it too brown if you add too much of it. There's that gray. And so there's like when you're in perspective, you barely can see the window or the doorway here. See, it's just almost like a line. And these right here. You don't know what they are, but you obviously think that they have to be. There's another little thing right here. I think I drew that in here somewhere. I don't know what this is. Another line next to that. A little bit gray down back here. And so when that basket dries, we'll put the gray in for the little, hopefully you saw what I did, but God, the little lamppost. I'm just going to put that. I'm going to show you. I'm going to zoom in if I can remember to zoom back out. Just putting a little gray. Tapping my brush. Like you don't have to draw. You can go back in with a darker gray for super details. Excuse me. Gonna go with the little lines here. I'm just kind of filling in. And a little crown thing that's on top. You really don't have to show it as a realistic looking little lines, everything. Kind of just get the idea of it. The pole. Sticking out right here. There's a little pink square. I didn't even realize I didn't paint that. So I'll have to paint the pink square and come back in with some color. And if that pink is so light, you can go back in and fill that in again. You might want to use, if the paintbrush is too intimidating, I'm adding some Payne's gray if you really want it a little bit darker for that nice little pole. You really got it. There's a little line that goes out here. And how detailed do you want to get with this little line? It's up to you. You can leave it out. I'll take a little bit of the Payne's gray and go back over my gray and just tap in little details. Tippy tap. You know, so it looks like it has some actual detail in the lamppost. And then the little squirrely part, very meticulously paint that. Or if it's really hard for you, just grab an ink pen. I'm just going to do whatever my best to do a squirrel, and if they're not perfect, that's no biggie on me. I don't really care. You know, do little tippy taps, squirrels on this, lines on this. I do think that the lamppost should be a little bit darker pink. So I am going to clean up my brush if it wants to be clean. Sorry, I might have screwed up and not showed you the whole thing. So I went back in with just little Paynes gray and tapped in some just darker, you see some darker areas of like blackish color. I'll go back in here and make that lamppost a little bit darker. It just seems like it was too late. I have to be very careful with that because of the fact that I just painted the black grays and I want it to bleed, right? Just tiny details. So now that this gray part is dry, you can go and grab, again, you see those little detailed lines of like, just kind of squiggle. And then put a dark gray line around the window to give it some definition. And then of course I'm going to use my brown to go across the bar here. Deep dark brown. The details. Those are all the things that go at the end, right? The darker brown on the bottom of these crates, so they have some perspective. Same thing here on here, darker. All these little nuances. Darker on the bottom. Dark brown. You use that dark brown to put the little lines that you kind of see going down and then going across. So they're going across. Lines going down, separating the baskets. This might need to get a little bit darker. These are the little details. I don't feel like that it's super important to get super details like this in. Just kind of get the feeling that there's some thing hanging off the building. I'm gonna grab some gray, get this darker on the bottom, do the little lines that come across. I just don't feel like it's super necessary to get so detailed with that. And it's like super hyperrealism, and I'm not into that. Just want the feeling of what we're seeing here. All right, and again with the little bricks kind of going across on this gray little brick part up here. And then of course I'll go back in my little thing here once I've filled in all the color, did all the nuances, and put my little bar going across. It's just it can be a little bit darker, but for now I'm just going to put that in there. It looks good enough to me. And now that I finished the color, the pink, I can go back and fill the details that I want. All right, we're going to do the person. All right, so like I said, I want to make a turquoise. I'm going to grab some peacock blue. Now that's a really intense. And I'll add some burnt umber. And I will tone down that turquoise, right? Make it a little more manageable. So you can zoom in. It's a little tricky with the body. I'm just going to do a really kind of like loose. So here's the turquoise. I'll start to put in a loose color. There's the arm sleeve. There was a scarf this person was wearing, so you don't see that. And here's the arm. Now I realize there's parts that I missed over here that it should be a little skinny person. So if that happens, like, see, all this area I didn't do, I'm going to show you what to do. So I'm going to get that turquoise in there first. The arm out. And we'll add details. And it goes up over here. Right? Because we have the cane. So I'm going to let that part dry. While it's drying, I can go play with adding in a little bit of the gray in the feet. And if we're going to make the person turquoise and the bag a different color, we'll have to figure out the bag color. So I'm going to let the turquoise dry, and I'm going to show you how I fill those in. So we have that area, right? We're going to have to go take our brush is not clean. I hate that. The colors again that we mixed before. I'm going to play around with that a little bit. So here's some of the color, and we're going to see how this goes by filling this back in. See? Because remember they had the cane. So that will dry. We'll add the dark color. And same thing here. It's going to work out fine because, you know why? Because the color is going to be darker. I'm going to move this color across a little bit. And it won't matter, right? Because this is going to dry, and we're going to add another layer of the dark color. You could kind of take some ultramarine blue and play with adding it now. And notice I'm kind of wiggling my brush. I'm kind of removing some of this dark area here. You see that? So I can blend it. And then I'll let this dry, and then I can add this whole color again. So there it's dry. I'll go back in and add some of that reddish kind of color. I'll kind of bring it up in here. It's like it's meant to be, right? Do you even notice it? No. I'll add some gray to that color. Go down in here. We'll have to make the gray go across, of course. Kind of wiggle this color. And even back in here. And grab some gray. Gonna have to wait till this dries because it's not performing what I want it to do, but going across, you see? It's like it never happened. I'll let this dry and do one more pass. So I let this dry and went back in, grabbed some of that dark color I had before to go across, right? And then you can kind of like play with taking the gray again, kind of adding some shadows back here. See, here, going across here. So now it doesn't look like it was a mistake. You see how you can fix things? You can fix things. Don't give up on your paintings. I'm going to go back and add a little bit more color around here. Voila, a little more blue. See, just take your time and you can fix that. So we got our purple, our blue. I'm going to go in for another pass with that turquoise. I gotta make this turquoise, the pigment a little bit thicker. So here's the peacock blue, burnt umber, tap, tap, tap. And then we can start to do like some of the wrinkles, maybe another pass of the color if it feels like it was too light. I feel like it is. So I'm gonna do another pass of the color on this coat. Just feel like it's so light. Because even if I add shadows, I just wanted it to be darker. And up in here in the head. There's a scarf, we'll put that in also. So I made that one more pass, and then I'll add some deeper shadows to that. But we have to let it dry. Tiny brush, so I'm back with the number 10. I'm going to take the same color, going to play with going down here, putting in little color here for the sleeve. Same thing here. And I notice there's a gap in the arm here because I probably didn't remove that, and I need to add some more. Let's see if I can add some of the color of this background in here. Again, to make the person a little bit skinnier. It was really big. And we can do the face. I can use the same color that we used for all these buildings, whatever. Right? I'm going to just clean up my brush. Here, grab this like nice beigey pinky color. And my brush was so dirty that it's making every color that I pick up dirty. But just kind of fill that in and get a little shadow happening. See that? And the hand here. It's, you know, they're supposed to be far away. You can't really see what they look like. And then the scarf could be any color. You can make it look like light pink. So I'm going to grab some pink and just kind of go in here. Put the pink down. We'll get a little bit darker on the face area. And I'm going to grab the turquoise and go and bring it here. Now the bag, we have to figure out what color we want to make the bag. Maybe we already have a turquoise person and we don't want to use orange. I wouldn't suggest yellow. Let's think about it for a second. And while we're thinking about it, take the brush and do a couple of little wrinkle that you see in the coat. Just little lines. Kind of going like this. Again, just little tiny details. Make the paint a little bit thicker. So you get a little bit darker. Little things that help the picture. A little darker here. And on the arm here. And going up. Just a little bit. And a couple of lines coming this way. All right, so I have to think about it. I could make it yellow. So now what you gotta do if you don't know and you're stumped like me is you take a piece of tracing paper. You grab a piece of tracing paper. Let's see how an orange bag, yellow bag would look. Woo! That's all you see is yellow, right? And that's not gonna work. Maybe red. This cadmium red light. That would be kind of nice. Or it could be gray, you know? Maybe you want that to hold the whole thing to pop. So I might grab the red. Or it could be pink. I might hate it. And it should go in a triangle. So maybe I've got to paint some more of this background again. That got lost. So it goes into a triangle. When I paint it. Okay, so I'm gonna grab the red and gonna just go like this in a triangle. Right out of the tube almost. Yeah, it's a nice little pop. And gonna go back in with some grays for the darkness under the person's face. See? Little details matter, and then take some of the pink and do some lines like this under the scarf, so it has that nuance of that. And then the cane, they show it light colored. We didn't leave it white, so we can make it gray because we can do whatever we want. So we'll put this little gray cane kind of coming down on the hand, right? It's a little lighter behind the shoes. I might just add the color back there so it makes sense. There's our person. And I might go back in with some of the details of this lovely turquoise and fill in a little bit more deeper color here. It's still kind of light. I'm going to play around with this a little bit, adding more color. Can be a little tricky when you're playing with this. And it's not exact because you changed the color. Right? And I might put a little bit detailed shadows on the bag a little bit on this side. But this is how I would tackle it. So that's pretty much done. If you want to like add the wire, I don't know if I want to add the wire to the building. And I'll take some gray tones. Like I said, there's some little, these baskets. Don't get super detailed. It's making nuts. And maybe put another shadow again under the person's face. Right, because you really can't see them. All right, a couple little details. A little dark down here where the hand would touch the bag. It's like almost like black gray right here, just a little dot. The feet, make them a little bit darker. Gonna grab some, even some Paynes gray at this point. Just go into here. Should be a little bit darker. Tap that around the hand. These are just like little teeny things that make up the whole entire thing. And all these little gray, darker gray, blackish kind of details, like the lovely window here. Just doing some tippy taps. These crates, I have little lines that I kind of drew in, but you can take the darker colors and make the little lines of the crates. Tiny little details. This little thing here. And that's pretty much it. That's our Moroccan lady walking through the alley. So I hope this helped you a little bit when you're doing midtones, light tones, and the details. You do the details at the very, very end, right? My little baskets here are not perfect, and I don't really mind. You get the idea what it is kind of from the photograph, or maybe you even don't, but that's how I go about it. And the person isn't perfect by any means, but again, you're playing around with adding color. I think because I had not enough shape on this one, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. You see a person walking in the alley and you can add some, again, some more gray tones, dry brushing, all that good stuff. Dry brushing. See the dry brushing, so I get this really loose and wet. Tap on paper towel, and then you can dry brush some of that gray that you see coming up here and around. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed it. Step by step, break it down. Light, mid, dark, right? You can change the coat, keep it the same. Mine made red. I might go back and fix my little red bag. It's kind of goofy. You know, maybe have some red details in the scarf in here. Just kind of balance that. Play around with it. If you felt like it got too dark here, try and do some lifting, right? With my little person. Going up my brush, and I'll lift a little of the color just by wiggling the brush and then tapping back on the paper towel. And you see, now the sunlight is coming from this way, by the way, a little bit. And I'll move that, and I've gotten that nice light tone happening on there and the shoulder. Little details sometimes matter. And then come down here a little bit. Got a little too dark here. You need a stiffer brush for this. The Velvet Touch is good for that. Again, clean up my brush, kind of wiggle it. Lighter. And I can go back in and add some of the lovely turquoise that I had. Get a little bit darker just kind of on this side. There you go. Look at that. I kind of feel like it's like Mary Magdalene outfit, but I don't know. Anyway, I hope this was fun for you. There's not much shadow happening next to the person because they're already in the shade. If they were in the sun, there would be more shadows. And I'll add a little bit more of this lovely little gray happening here. It's kind of behind her, the sun, part of the alley. And there you go. It's my Moroccan lady. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts, and happy painting!